Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I'm here with a tag video in which I have actually been tagged, and that is the stay-at-home book tag that was created by Princess of Paperbacks, and I was tagged by the Wild Sasha. I will leave both of their channels as well as the links to their videos in the description box down below, so go and check those out. As the name of this tag suggests, this is a tag that kind of has questions centering on the current situation in which a lot of us have to stay at home to keep everyone else safe, and a lot of us also have to still go to work to kind of keep everything running. And so first of all, a big thank you to everyone doing everything that they can to just deal the best as they can with the current situation. I'm actually in a quite lucky position because in Austria we have been starting to open things back up for the past couple of weeks. Smaller shops have been open for 2 weeks again already, and in May the schools are gonna start again. And the thing that I'm most excited about, 1st of May, hairdressers are gonna open back up again with a lot of regulations, of course. Because I don't know if you've noticed that my hair has gotten messier and messier for the past few videos, and I definitely need a haircut. And little disclaimer, because I'm sure there's going to be people who misunderstand that. I know that that is complaining on a very high level, and I'd happily continue letting my hair grow as it will if it was necessary. So now that we have all of that out of the way, let's get into the questions of this tag. Question number 1 is Laying in Bed, a book that I could or that I have read in one sitting. And for that I am going with pretty much all of Brandon Sanderson's books. The reason why I chose Brandon Sanderson and not, for example, the Focal of the Air series by Holly Black, which I also read, I think I read the entire trilogy in 2 days, is because Brandon Sanderson writes high fantasy. And you don't usually find one sitting high fantasy, however Brandon Sanderson definitely is that for me. I think I haven't taken more than 2, maybe 3 days to read any of his books. And the 3 days only go for the Stormlight Archived, where each of the books basically is 1,000 pages. I can remember with the Mistborn series especially, I think it took me a total of 4 days to read the entire trilogy, which that's a lot of pages, and I pretty much stayed up until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to finish each book. And I think it was only the first one where I took 2 days because it took me some time to get into the trilogy and so on. So yeah, definitely a one-sitting author for me. Next is Snacking, a guilty pleasure book. And I do not like the term of guilty pleasure for books because it kind of implies like a ranking of worth in books for me, because of course there's better books and there's less well-written books or whatever, but I do not think that inherently, let's say, Cassandra Clare books have less worth than Jane Austen books, because maybe literary, but like not generally. Do you know what I mean? And so that's why I do not like the term of guilty pleasure. However, I still do agree in some cases with guilty pleasure, especially when it comes to problematic stuff in books. And that series for me is the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series by Laurel K. Hamilton. I mean, in this series, especially in the later books, the earlier books actually I do think are quite well written, especially for urban fantasy, but the later books are just plain trash. And the thing is, there's kind of some homophobic and racist subtext sometimes in that series, and those parts I definitely do not enjoy. However, as a whole, I still enjoy myself some Anita Blake every now and again. And so yeah, that's why I would call it a guilty pleasure series for me, being aware of the problematic content in that series, but somehow still enjoying all the other stuff in it. Netflix, a series I want to start. And I currently actually don't really want to start any series because I have a lot that I have to finish up. But a series that is nevertheless on my radar is the Book of the Ancestor series, I think it's called, by Mark Lawrence, the first book being The Red Sister. And once I have finished a few of the series on my TBR, I will definitely get to this one. Hopefully next year, maybe even this year still, we'll see. Deep Clean, a book that has been on my TBR for ages. And for that, I have to go with Paradise Lost by John Milton. This has been on my TBR for pretty much 10 years, I think, because I had this phase in high school when I read all the YA series that I felt like I needed to go out and buy all the classics that were mentioned in all the YA series I read, and of course this is mentioned quite a lot in the Mortal Instruments series, so I had to go out and buy it, and I still haven't read it because it's fucking confusing to read. So yeah, probably should get to it at some point. Animal Crossing, a book that I recently bought because of hype. And I have gotten really good actually at not buying books because of hype. I don't think I've really bought any books because of hype in the past 3 years or so, except for one book which I halfway bought because of the hype, and that is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. And when the hype started back up, when the cast was announced for the Netflix show, I went out and bought this because Ben Barnes is part of the show, which means I'm going to have to watch that show, which means I want to read the books first. And so I kind of bought this series because of the hype. But otherwise, I might buy hyped series, but usually only if I actually really feel like it's something that I would be interested in. So otherwise, I'm pretty good at just being like, nah, not interested. Next is Productivity, a book you learned something from or that had an impact on you. And I actually did a video on a similar topic, or kind of on this topic, 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And in that video I talked about all the books that changed my life. So I will leave that video link down below and up there, and I won't mention any of the books that I talked about in this video, even though those of course would be the first books that came to my mind. The book that I'm going to talk about instead is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, and this book had such a huge impact on me. It made me paranoid after I had finished it. This made me think so much, and it's such a great and impactful book. I don't think you can read it without feeling anything, especially if you're a woman, I think. And so that's why I decided to pick this book as an answer. FaceTime, a book you were gifted. And I'm actually not someone who receives books as gifts a lot, and I didn't want to go with any books that I specifically asked for Christmas, for example. So I have 2 examples here that I both got for my birthday, so now over half a year ago, I think. And the first of those is this beautiful old edition of Fausts Leben, Taten und Höllenfahrt by Friedrich Klinger, I think it is. And my mom just found this. It's from 1911. It's like still written in this old-timey script. And yeah, I just really love this. And so yeah, this is actually one of the few bookish things that I'm gifted a lot whenever my mom is in an antiquity store and finds interesting books that she thinks I might be interested in. She brings them to me. That's why I also have a quite big collection of antique books. And then the other book that I was also gifted for my birthday, which is why I kind of wanted to talk about both of them, is this annotated and uncensored edition of The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. The Picture of Dorian Gray, of course, is my favorite book of all time. And for those of you who don't know, there were actually 2 editions of The Picture of Dorian Gray. Oscar Wilde first published The Picture of Dorian Gray, I think in a journal, and then he published it in book form 1 year later. But for the book, he again edited it, and apparently in the uncensored edition the homoerotic subtexts are a lot stronger. I still haven't gotten around to reading this, sadly, but yeah, it's just kind of a nice one. You have the annotations kind of explaining what everything means exactly. There's sometimes just pictures as examples and so on. And yeah, I definitely hope I can get to this soon because I absolutely love Dorian Gray. Second to last question is self-care, something you have been doing recently to take care of yourself. And I'm actually not quite sure if I've ever talked about that on my channel, but in high school I used to draw and also kind of paint quite a lot. I was in a high school that didn't have, like, it wasn't a professionally art school, but we did have kind of a focus on art. We had 2 big art projects per year. One was painting, drawing type of stuff, and the other one was sculpture, in which we just had like 2 to, let's say, 4 weeks, I think, where we just kind of had one medium to work with, and then we had one product at the end that we just finished. And I did always really enjoy that. I was never particularly good at it. I would say I'm decent at art, but the creativity part, you can forget it. I hate creativity. I cannot draw like an original drawing if my life depended on it. However, I am quite good at copying stuff, whether that be copying like architecture from outside or just copying from another drawing, another picture, or so on. And not tracing, just copying. And it's something that I've really gotten into again ever since quarantine started. I really started drawing and also painting. I'm kind of trying to get back into aquarelle again, although I should probably buy gouache because that's what I remember most from high school, being the medium that I enjoyed painting with most, because it's kind of the best of both worlds between acrylic and watercolor, because it can kind of be more opaque, but you can also kind of really sheer it out. But yeah, I've been painting and drawing quite a lot. Mostly, as you can probably see in this one, I've just been copying photographs of K-pop idols just to get a feel for the human body again and for faces and so on. And hopefully in the future I might be able to make original art, but we'll see. That's probably a long way off. And I hope I don't lose the motivation, but yeah, this has been going on for 2 weeks now and I still really enjoy it. And yeah, that's what I've been doing to take care of myself. And then bonus question, because authors are having quite a hard time at the moment, what is one upcoming release that I'm excited for? And there are two that I can think of off the top of my head. One of them is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, which is an own voices book set, I think, in New Orleans. And I think it's about a Hispanic gay trans boy, what if I remember it correctly, and it's with voodoo and stuff. That's what I remember about the synopsis anyway. And the other one is Queen of Coin and Whispers by Helen Corcoran, and this one is a sapphic high fantasy book with a romance between, I think, a queen and her spy master, something along those lines. And yeah, it's been quite a while since I've read the synopsis for either of those books, but I'm really excited for both of them. And if you're interested as well, you should definitely go and check those books out. And yeah, that was it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media are in the description box down below, so go and check those out, and I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!